My next guest is an award-winning journalist. He writes for ProPublica, which is an excellent news outlet. He writes specifically on patient safety and has developed ProPublica's Surgeon Scorecard, which is an excellent tool, by the way. And he joins us now to talk about an interesting incident involving pharmaceuticals that he was involved with. I had the exact same experience, actually, so it should be an interesting conversation. Marshall Allen of ProPublica, thanks so much for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me here, Richard.
So tell us about your story, which was given the headline, How Two Common Medications Became One $450 million Specialty Pill.
Well, so my experience started with my own visit to the doctor. And, sometimes you find stories in the most unique places. And in this case, it happened to be my own story. I had a shoulder problem, so I went to the doctor, and he prescribed me a pill called Vimovo. And I wasn't sure I needed this pill, and the way they gave it to me was a little unorthodox. They just gave me the samples and said a mail-order pharmacy would be sending me the prescription. And I said, well, I didn't think I really needed a prescription. And they said, oh, don't worry. It's not going to cost you any more than $10. You don't need to worry about it. And so I thought, well, that's kind of strange. I mean, a brand name drug, they're assuring me it won't cost $10. I can't go pick it up at my local CVS, like I usually do. It just seemed a little odd. So when I got home, I Googled it and I found that Vimovo has actually been a very controversial drug. And essentially what it is they took two very common over-the-counter medicines. One is Aleve, which is a pain reliever, and one is Nexium, which is for kind of gastric, to settle your stomach, protect your gastric lining. They combined these two over-the-counter medicines into this one drug called Vimovo, but then they jacked up the price of it extremely high. So they tried to charge my insurance company about $3,200 for this bottle of Vimovo that I could have bought for about $30 or $40 if I would have gone down to my local pharmacy.
Well, that's amazing and fascinating for a number of reasons. And I have to preface my response with a confession, because I worked in healthcare financing for many years, came back into journalism. I have a radio show. I write about healthcare from time to time, and yet my radar were off. Probably, I'd like to think it's because my back was really hurting me.
Sure.
So I didn't know a specialist in that, and I was in a lot of pain, and I went to, and I knew in the back of my mind, first of all, that most back care, the best thing is just watchful waiting. The incident will pass.
Right.
Virtually the exact same thing happened to me. The receptionist said, don't worry, there's going to be this is going to come. They gave me 2 free samples of it, and they said, you'll be getting it in the mail. From Washington, D.C., they told me that I'd be getting it from a compounding pharmacy in Virginia, in West Virginia, and to wait for a call. And I got a call, hi, I'm Julie. It was all very sophisticated, and, we want to expedite and get this medication to you. Never occurred to me, brilliant healthcare reporter that I am, to look into what this was really costing. And this really illustrates your experience and mine illustrates some serious larger problems, doesn't it?
I think it does. I mean, I think one thing it shows, and I mean, I felt this myself because, I'm coming out of that exam room. I'm still tucking in my shirt. I'm trying to remember if I asked all the questions I needed to ask about my shoulder. And they kind of hand you this thing, and you don't really always have the presence of mind to think on the spot, I need to ask this question, or I need to wonder what is this drug, or who's giving it to me. There's a lot of trust in that doctor-patient relationship. And so even when someone like you or someone like me has a lot of knowledge and a lot of skepticism about the way the healthcare machine works, we can get sucked up in this stuff just like everyone can. And so in this case, it did trigger my suspicion a little bit, and so I looked it up. But, it just as easily might not have, and I would have just taken the pill without even knowing about it.
Yeah, I'm absolutely flabbergasted to find out that this exotic pill that I was given is Aleve and Nexium. I already have Aleve and Nexium on my shelf. It wouldn't have cost me anything.
It would have cost you nothing to just stay home.
Right. And by the way, I never used the physical therapy prescription he gave me because it got better. I also have the shoulder thing, by the way, but that's a whole other conversation.
That's a whole other thing, yeah.
So $3,400 is a staggering amount of money. So tell us, for the record, how it is that a drug manufacturer can get away with combining two over-the-counter medications and charging insurance companies an astronomical sum for it.
Well, they basically go through the process with the FDA to get it approved as a new drug. And to do that, they showed through studies that the combination of these two drugs effectively reduced gastric ulcers. Now, the same could be true if someone were to study the combination of Aleve and Nexium, but people haven't done those studies. And so they were able to do the studies and show that this combination was effective. And so that's how they got the drug approved. Now, once they had it approved, it was interesting. I went back and I read their annual reports, and they've been very successful with this drug. This drug has net sales of more than $455 million in the last 4 years. So they've made a lot of money on this combination drug. And in their annual reports, they're very proud to tell their investors how they succeeded. And so it was interesting to read sort of the pharmaceutical company playbook about how to make this work. Now, the first thing they did, we've already talked about, they provide this assistance to the patients so that we don't pay anything out of pocket. And so that way they can take away any incentive we might have not to fill the prescription, right? They tell us it's not going to cost you more than $10, or if your insurance company covers it, you'll get it for free. And so as the patient, you think, well, hey, I'm not paying anything. I mean, I'm going to go ahead and fill the prescription. Another thing that they do is they take the pharmacy out of the equation. Now, if you went down to your local pharmacy with a prescription for Vimovo, your pharmacist might say, hey, Richard, did you know you could actually just combine Aleve and Nexium and you wouldn't even have to take this pill? And you'd be like, well, hey, man, I got that at home. Why do I need this other drug, Vimovo? But by going through a specialty pharmacy and having it shipped to your home through the specialty pharmacy, they take out that check in the system, which might be your local pharmacist. So those are two things they did. Another thing they did is they worked the system on the doctor side. They provided funding to the American Gastroenterological Association over the years to support an educational campaign to show why it's important to take these two drugs together. They didn't promote Vimovo specifically through this, but they sort of primed the medical community by emphasizing the importance of taking these two ingredients together. And that way, when their reps went with this one pill that's a combination of the two, it looks like a great thing to your doctors.
And it looks like a convenience to your patients, so why wouldn't she or he want to do it? And again, we're talking with Marshall Allen of ProPublica about two common medications being combined for staggering profit and how we both encountered that. Marshall, I do have to add, by the way, that I did not pay a $10 copay. It was absolutely free for me, but in the spirit of solidarity, I'll give you $5 if I ever need you.
In that case, your insurance company must have covered it, so that's kind of even more alarming because in my situation, my insurance company rejected it, and so they ended up eating the cost of my Vimovo.
Oh, that's interesting.
But in cases where it's covered by the insurance company, that bill was given to your insurance company, and so they gave it to you for free. That's what they say in their reports anyway.
Well, that's very interesting.
The analogy I made with this, Richard,
Go
again,
ahead.
just for the viewers here, this is like if you wanted to have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and you go buy your peanut butter and you go buy your jelly and you put them on the bread and you make yourself a sandwich. That's great. But there's also this stuff that Smucker's makes called Goober. I don't know if you've seen it. It's the combination of peanut butter and jelly in the same jar.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Vimovo is like the Goober of drugs, right. Except in this case, it would be like charging $565 for one jar of Goober.
Well, you know what else, Marshall, is like the Goober of drugs is the EpiPen. Now, someone in my family carries an EpiPen. You've got, if I recall correctly, you've got a medication that's been around for a long time, and you've got a delivery system that's essentially a syringe, which is not a new invention, but by putting them together in a certain way and getting patent protection on it, somebody can charge these outrageous, $1,000, $1,600 per injection. Am I right about that?
Well, so an EpiPen, those are about $300 right now, which is really expensive, and that price has been hiked a lot. And it's true, it is epinephrine, so it's just a medication that you can easily get in another form, and what you are paying for is that automatic injector. Now, I have talked to patients, families, doctors who say that it is more convenient and to get that dose. I mean, you know that you're going to get the dose rapidly to deal with shock that a patient might be going into because of an allergy. So I have heard people say that system is beneficial. It's just, is it worth the price? They've raised that price so much over the years that appears to be something where they're really gouging the consumers. And that's the same with Vimovo, actually. I mean, it's not a bad idea to combine Nexium and Aleve into a single pill. I mean, it does increase compliance on taking the two together. It might be a great idea. It's just, is it really fair? Is it really a good idea to be charging thousands of dollars per bottle of the medication?
And it's important to note, Marshall Allen, that the reason why they can charge $300 for an EpiPen or thousands of dollars for Vimovo is because we have a patent system that allows manufacturers to patent combinations like this, right? Otherwise, why wouldn't someone else come in and say, I'll combine Aleve and Nexium for a third of the price?
Right, that's correct. So they have that exclusive on it for a time. And then the other thing, the FDA regulates the safety of drugs, but they don't regulate at all the price of drugs. And so it's kind of like whatever they can get away with charging, they're able to get away with charging. And so it's a bit of a game for the pharmaceutical companies a lot of times to come up with a new product, a new gimmick, a new twist on an old thing, package it as something new, and then see how many years they can go, charging our insurance payers exorbitant amounts of money for a new kind of twist on the same thing that we had before.
Yeah, and I guess last area of question or last or of discussion or last question or so. Okay, so some insurance companies are paying this. Two thoughts on that I'd like to hear from you about. One is, it only costs me $10. Well, it costs the system, and therefore all of us indirectly a lot more than that. I think that gets missed. That gets under the radar far too often. And secondly, we're supposedly we have the private insurance companies involved because they've been telling us for so many years they're better at managing expenses than anybody else. Wouldn't this tend to put the lie to that they don't have a process that says, normally I get mad at insurance companies when they say we won't cover the medication that was prescribed, but if they came back and said, hey, that's just Aleve and Nexium, just go out and buy Aleve and Nexium, I'd say, okay. So aren't the insurance companies also falling down on the job here?
Yeah, absolutely. To your first point, I mean, this broader series I'm doing, this was the third story in a series I'm doing called Wasted Medicine. And what I'm looking at is all the waste in the healthcare system and how that contributes to the high cost of care that we all are paying. Right now, they estimate that $765 billion a year is wasted in the healthcare system. That's bigger. When the Institute of Medicine did this study that estimated that number, that amount, $765 billion, is bigger than the annual department budget of the Department of Defense. It's about 1/4 of healthcare spending that they say is being wasted. All of that waste is being paid for by me and by you and by the viewers of this program through our high premiums, through our high deductibles, through our massive out-of-pocket costs that keep going higher, through our taxpayer dollars being squandered. So this is really what is driving up the cost of care. It's one of the factors that's driving up the cost of care for all of us. And so I think, our instinct is to say, oh, it's only costing me $10 or it's only costing you got it for free. Well, that's your out-of-pocket cost. but all of this is causing our premiums to rise. And so we are all paying for it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think that's a great place to conclude. And I will only add that it is also costing us in inefficiencies and cost issue pressures that lead us to sometimes be denied needed care or find it difficult to get needed care. So I think in the end, many of us pay a health price as well as a financial price. So Marshall Allen, great reporting, great catch on this.
If I could just make one
Sure.
more plug, I'm sorry, but I'm going to be
Absolutely.
selfish here for just a minute.
Absolutely.
You can go on our ProPublica website and look up wasted medicine. And I'm really soliciting ideas from your viewers about where I can find the most egregious examples of wasted healthcare dollars. So if people would go on the site and share me their tips, I would really appreciate it.
Okay, and so that's propublica.org and look for wasted medicine?
Wasted Medicine is the name of the project page, and you'll see a form on there you can fill out to share your ideas with me about egregious examples of wasted healthcare spending.
Great. Well, we'll encourage people to do that. And thanks for coming on the program, Marshall Allen, and I hope you'll come back at some point.
Thank you. I look forward to it.